Raiders, Raiders. Woo-hoo-hoo. That's the battle cry, y'all. Man, you know what? I'm pumped. I am so pumped. I can't wait for the season to start. I already got plans to head on back and watch a couple games and be part of the festivities that go down before the games with the black hole and all that stuff. But I really think this year the Raiders are going to make a statement. That marks the 15th year I've said that, but this year feels different. I think it's taken a little bit of adjustment for everybody to kind of like know where, what's all part of that organization. Is one of the most storied organizations in the freaking world, definitely in the NFL. Best uniforms, best color scheme, best logo, one of the winningest histories and stuff. Everybody knows all about the Raiders organization. And, like I said, I mean, if they can turn things around, it's going to be really good for the NFL. I always say that, like USC, in Notre Dame, when they find their true identity and they get things going back like how it used to be in the old school days. I'll even put Oklahoma and Nebraska in there too. I got a lot of respect for those guys. Then that's going to be fantastic for college ball. The Steelers, the Raiders, the old school teams that used to dominate back in the days. Once they find themselves, it's going to be on. And I really think that the Raiders are about ready to make that resurgence. So why am I bringing up the Raiders? Well, because like a week ago, I was flown back out to Las Vegas by the team to take part in this networking event called Networking on the Golf Course. And it was designed to bring the golf world together with the professional sports world and business owners. There was some professional golf coaches that were sent out with each team. And I'm not a golfer, so I just hung out and I saw some of my former teammates. There were new players or current players in there in the mix too, so I got a chance to kind of hang out and check on them, and they seem geared up and ready for this upcoming year. And it was just a really good event out there in Vegas. It's a different world, definitely different, obviously, when it comes to events and fundraisers and promotional type events than there was in Oakland. And, I'm starting to kind of understand how it all works too. I've never really been like a Vegas guy, but the more I go out there and I can sit back and kind of take it all in, it's just like, man, it all makes sense. You go out there and where our hotel was, it looks like it's across the street, but it's not. It's across the pasture, and it's a long walk to get where like the Raider facility is. But from the hotel, you can look out there and see that everything is building up around the Raider facility. It stands out like no other. I mean, it's there, and that's the Raider organization. Command presence is very strong. But then you can kind of see businesses and complexes, or maybe even housings are coming up around where the Raider facility is and stuff. And it was just like, wow, when this thing is done, the vision is going to be complete. And someone had a hell of a vision, in my opinion. Yeah, it's very, very real. It's exciting and all that stuff too, because it's always driven in our heads that once a Raider, always a Raider. And I feel that every single time I take part in one of these events. So I look forward to being able to go back, and we have a reunion coming up. I'm going to try to see if I can make that, but I have my own stuff going on over here. I got movie making stuff that's going to, who knows where it's going to take us, but a lot of good things is falling in place with a project we have going on called it's a mixture of everything, really. We might as well just call it the Vegas Project. And part of this Vegas Project are two big fights that we want to set up, like boxing matches, MMA fight, and we want to combine the different cultures, different countries, all that into 2 to 3 different fights that's designed to spread diversity and connect the two different, or how many different worlds or separate cultures we can into one event. And it's called the Vegas Project. And at the same time, we're going to be shooting a film in conjunction with that, and that's called The Next Dana White. So, you know what? It's great. I'm feeling really good. So you combine all that with being out there and feeling the love that comes with being a Raider. It feels good. So it made me start thinking about and reflecting on the days when out here in Oakland, you just put everything in perspective, because I was an Oakland Raider. I missed the day when they just left LA. The year before I came, I think they were flying from LA up to the stadium in Oakland for their home games. But I wasn't part of that, but I don't know how hard that couldn't have been easy. So I just assume it had to be kind of hard and kind of different and stuff, maybe bizarre, I guess, if you want to use that word too. But but they made it work. I think that was the year that the Raiders won their first 8 games, and then they lost their last 8 and missed the playoffs. And I'm just like, oh my goodness gracious, this team is just snake bitten. It's just, I don't know what's going on, but I'm gonna stay true. A lot of our Raider Nation is obviously gonna stay true and all that stuff, because when the good old days come, it's gonna be fantastic. So when I think about that, I think about my first days as a Raider, and I just sit back and just like relish with the memories and stuff. I mean, it was quite the eye-opening experience, mainly, especially for me, someone who went to a different team first, at a couple different teams for the first couple years, and things just didn't work out. So I got a chance to see the nasty business side of the NFL and almost threw in the towel, but I dug deep and I said, no, I'm going to give it one more shot. And then I was fortunately able to get signed with the Raiders. And then, I get down here and you just hear the stories, and it really was trippy. I'm a Midwestern guy, so getting down here and becoming a Raider and seeing the Bay Area up close and personal firsthand was trippy, because it literally was Oakland's on one side of the bridge and then San Francisco's on the other side of the bridge. So people ask me and they wonder, why do I have such a kind of like a bitter rivalry sense in my mind about the 49ers? It's because, it was very, very real and very, very apparent how much better they thought they were than us. And it was a rivalry as big as any other rivalry I've ever known and seen. And it was right across the bridge. You could see their stadium from our side of the bay, and then they could see our stadium from their side of the bay. Obviously, the two cities, downtown San Francisco, matched up against downtown Oakland, all that stuff. Oakland can't really compare to the skyline of San Francisco just yet, but Oakland has one heck of an attitude that just we know we're just as bad as any other city out there stuff. So it was a fantastic rivalry, and it was really very genuine, and then but I picked my side and stuff like that. Obviously, I kind of said, I'm an Oakland Raider, and that's really it. I don't really want to have too much to do with the Niners because of the fact of how much they did to us. And it went all the way up to the owners, man. It was just a hated rivalry that went all the way to the top. So, and that stays with the person and all that stuff. So those are the memories that I've been reflecting on, and hopefully those days will come back. I mean, the Raiders play the 49ers in the preseason. I think they have a training camp session with the Niners and stuff, and it should be reignited as far as like the fire that these two teams had with each other. Obviously, let's not get crazy with it. There doesn't need to be any violence or fights and all that stuff, but just kind of like the joyful banter back and forth and stuff like that. And then, you compete. One play you may burn the 49er defensive back, and then the next play this dude may come in and just steal a ball on the right from you and run it back, and then now the other defensive backs are escort them down to the end zone. That's what I'm talking about. That's the fun part that comes with these type of rivalries and stuff. So I don't know if the Raider owners and then the 49ers owners had a lot to do with making sure that these two teams match up, but I hope they do something like that every year because like I've saying, it does mean a lot for the NFL. So yeah, I can't wait to kind of see what happens with that. So those are the memories that come back to me. I think about the times when I met some of the Hall of Famers and stuff. Freddie Biletnikoff was our receiver coach, and he was just so chilled, so cool, just didn't get upset by anything. But at the same time, he's coaching you in between, plays and all that stuff. And the one thing that we would always say is go for the point of the ball. Okay, you catch the point, you caught the ball. And if you see Freddie's plays and stuff like that, he didn't drop anything because of, he had big old hands anyway, but he would catch the point of the ball. That sticks with me now because as I'm a receiver coach, I'm hammering that in the heads of my young receivers, the same thing. I mean, it's not easy if you don't grow up thinking like that. You have a different way of catching the ball, and then someone tells you no, start catching the point. It's a little bit of adjustment, but if you do it in increments and stuff, it's a style that just it's gonna make it. I think when I look at college ball players now, that's what they all seem to be doing, is catching the ball over the middle very confidently, and they're catching that point, and they're just in the middle of their route, just no disruption one way or another, and it was just kind of like boom, they got their hands perfectly placed, they caught the point, gone. And it's beautiful, you know. I mean, I'm a receiver, and that's in my blood, you know. And so I'm looking forward to our season this year and all that stuff too. The Raider networking event we just had allows former Raiders the ability to kind of relish and look back and say, man, it was a fantastic time in my life that I was part of that organization. And for me, it carried over when I became a police officer too. It was just every day. I can't even think of a day that went by where someone wasn't asking me about the Raiders or bringing up the fact that I played with the Raiders. There was a shooting once that happened, and you know, I'm putting up tape around the crime scene and all that stuff. Just kind of, I mean, it's a serious situation, and some guy rode up on a bike. Hey, K.Shedd, Raiders, Raiders! And he just stood there and was chanting, Raiders, Raiders, Raiders. Finally, my lieutenant had to tell me to go over there. Man, will you go sign that dude's autograph and tell him to go? So it was a funny moment in a very serious setting, and it was like a bizarro land mixed with like fantasy land too, because yeah, I played with the freaking Oakland Raiders. It was a pretty cool thing. But at that moment, man, I'm a police officer. I'm dressed in my gear. I got my badge, my uniform on, and my duty belt, everything. Dude, I'm not a Raider right now. I'm trying to, post up this crime scene so we can start figuring out what just happened. But then I had to kind of like transfer myself, okay, from police officer, serious face, to going over to this guy and high-fiving him and chest bumping him. It was really, really weird, y'all. It was really weird. It was something that was like, it was hard to put into words. When people would ask me, what was it like to meet Al Davis? And, I am not yet ready to tell that story of when I first met Al Davis. It's coming. Some of the guys I work with have heard me tell that story, and they still laugh to this day. It's a pretty funny story, but I'm not ready to tell it just yet, but it's going to be coming. But when I do tell like little bits and pieces about what Al Davis was like, people were like blown away. And then what was it like to, have teammates like Timmy Brown and all that? I played with Chester McLaughlin. He was a very well-respected, well-loved defensive lineman for the Raiders back in the days. And unfortunately, he ended up passing away. And it was just kind of like, you have these giant figures, with these booming personalities who are all about the community, which Chester was. And then all of a sudden, way too young, they're gone. So, there's no escaping that, regardless of what profession you're in. Real life is always going to be there. So that was a struggle for me, you show up to your job, which as me being a police officer, you have to have this mindset of, being serious and being alert and being very focused on what's going on around you, because things could turn just like that. And then you mix in all the Raiders fans that are floating around the Bay Area and our city, and they love their team. And if they recognize you, it's like a completely different vibe. They're like pulling up next to you, and they're Raiders, hey, what's up? And I'm trying to look all cool and serious in my cop car, and now all of a sudden I'm like pumping my fist and going, woo, Raiders and stuff. It was very, very, very cool, I guess, but very strange. Those are part of the memories that I carry with me and carry dear, and no one can take those memories and stuff from me. Being a police officer, if with that type of element was challenging at sometimes, but at the same time, a lot of my coworkers thought that that was something that I should use as a weaponry, like to disarm people, diffuse situations and stuff. And I got it after a while. I can understand it, but it took me a minute because I didn't really want to be. I really wanted to be in the frame of mind that I'm a police officer, and I wanted to be acknowledged for my abilities to be a strong police officer and very efficient at my job. But there'd be so many times where we were trying to talk to a mentally unstable person, who's having probably a psychotic episode or whatever, and you could just tell this guy or girl's about to erupt and everything, and then the police officer's job is to try to diffuse the person, get them to kind of like take everything down, don't hurt themselves, don't strike out against their family or whatever, and just kind of put the knife down. There's been cases where guys have had knives to their throats and stuff. Don't do that. You talk them down, and they're having a moment where they could go either way. And then somebody like a supervisor or whatever says, then all of a sudden we'll go talk to them and stuff. And then you hear, hey, are you a football fan? And then it took several times for me to kind of figure out, oh man, here we go with this again. The first couple times I was just kind of like, I did not like that because I wasn't in that frame of mind. I'm trying to, see how I can assist, either come up behind the person and then knock the weapon out of their hand, and then we get them on the ground, and then we, get them secured so we can help him, get him to the hospital and get him some help. I'm not in the mood to be talking about football, but all of a sudden, yeah, hey, do you know who that guy is right there? And then the person would like squint and stuff. No, who's that? Well, are you a Raider fan? Yeah. Well, guess who that is? And he's like, who is that? Oh, that's K.Shedd. Whoa, okay, really? And then sometimes, more times than not, they would say, who? But every once in a while, I was like, what, K.Shedd? Oh, I remember him, Mr. August. People would know me from August because that would be the times that I'd play in the preseason and I'd just dominate. And then all of a sudden, then the season started, then, the starters would get back out there and I'd, have to get my money on special teams, which I had no problem with. But obviously, I want to start, but I made the most of my time during the preseason, and all I just needed was that one break, like a lot of other NFL players make or get. Like say Tom Brady, his major break came when Drew Bledsoe got hurt. I went to the combine with Drew Bledsoe, and this dude was the prototypical everything. He was the hot item all over everywhere. Teams were busting their butt to be able to get their hands to be able to draft this guy. Just a fantastic body frame, amazing arm, just a brilliant, smart guy, played at a big-time college, and Drew Bledsoe, man, there he is. And, he kind of struggled here and there, but, he did a decent job, but it wasn't until he got hurt that people started seeing, okay, who else can take his place? And then all of a sudden, Tom Brady came in. So, if I would have had that opportunity, and I'm not wishing injury on anybody, I would definitely not saying that at all. But I'm just trying to say, I just never got that opportunity to go on in and capitalize on being given a starting role or whatever, a prominent role. My role was like the backup, and then we go to I remember one particular time we're playing Atlanta, and we're the starters. I'm not going to mention any names, but the starter, and it wasn't Tim Brown. So, but the starter in front of me was dropping all these balls and just not playing very well. And we get into halftime, and then our coach comes up to me and says, hey, Shedd, get ready. We're going to start putting you in there more when we get back out there for the second half. I'm like, copy that, coach. Let's do it. And obviously they say it right by that starter. And then all of a sudden the second half starts, and then this dude just turned in like to a superhuman being, catching balls off people's helmets and flipping over and, catching balls, running past them. And all of a sudden the game, the momentum has changed, and now we're winning. And then we end up winning the game, and there it was. There was my shot. It was right there, and then gone, just like that. So that was just my luck. And credit to the people who who stepped up and maintained their grips on their starting position. That's how the NFL works. I wouldn't want it to be handed to me anyway. I like earning my stuff. So, but that was just the luck that came with me, But when I played in the NFL, I was always out there balling and everything and stuff like that. So then when I transferred over to the police department, and I had that same approach. I would want to be focused and doing my job. I didn't really want to be talking about football. And so here I am now in the middle of a crisis type situation. I'm bringing up catches I used to make because hey, you, and I'm kind of just not really BSing, but I am kind of BSing with this person. Now I'm talking, hey, you don't remember that game, man, where I caught this 80-yard bomb and all that stuff? And sometimes they say, yeah, I do remember that. And lo and behold, it would diffuse the situation. So it was a real eye-opening kind of experience to realize like how powerful the NFL was, and I believe it was more like the Raiders. The influence on the people in the communities was so strong that all you had to do was just mention the Raiders, and it just everybody wanted to stop and listen. So, I kind of started using it a little bit and stuff, and I wasn't as kind of standoffish, I guess, about it. And I started trying to have fun with it. And every once in a while, I'd use it out there. I'd have fun with it and stuff. And it all depends on the situation. Obviously, you can't jeopardize your safety or anything like that. I wouldn't go up to a guy who has a gun pointed right at me. Hey, look, I'm going to put my gun down and then I'm going to strike my touchdown dance. I'm going to show you that, okay? All right? Is that a fair deal? No, I wasn't that stupid, obviously, but it was, if you have a disruption, a family disruption and all that stuff, and you'd separate the two sides and stuff, if they just happen to be wearing a Raider t-shirt or whatever and all that stuff. And most of the time what I would do, this is me, and this is just me being me. If they had a 49er shirt on, I'd say, hey, how about this? If you kind of go back in there and apologize or whatever and all that stuff, I'm going to buy you a real shirt, the silver and black one with this awesome logo. And then you can burn that one you have on. And then they'd start laughing. Why, are you a Raider fan? Well, actually, I used to play. No way, man. Yeah, shoot. Yeah. And then it would work. And then we'd have fun with it and all that stuff. So, I started kind of using that like people were suggesting as my weaponry. So, yeah, 20 years of being a police officer, I've had my episodes that are just kind of, when I have grandkids, I'm going to be able to tell them some funny, kind of mind-blowing stories and stuff. One day that stands out in my mind to this day, and even when I tell this story to this day to anyone, they have a hard time believing that it actually happened like this. And you know what, guys? I have a hard time believing it happened like this too, because there's just no explanation that this happened like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you the story in as much detail as I can, so there's no way in the world I can make this up. There's just no way. I can come up with a funny storyline that has something to do with like a dog who figures out how to kind of build his own house. And then he uses his abilities to kind of trick the human into getting the wood for him, and then all that stuff. And then he does something. I don't know. I can make it up on the fly. I bet you anything in the end, it's going to be super funny, and it's going to be bizarre, but it's going to be funny. But when you read it, it's going to sound believable. I can't do that with this particular story because there's just no way in the world I can make this story up. So, okay, so one day as a police officer, right, I had maybe 5 or 6 years on. The rookie guy was gone. I was able to kind of feel good about hitting my shift and getting dressed and, getting my car all prepped and ready and all that stuff. I had a nice little system and all that stuff. I knew how to go through my shifts and make it through, kind of experience most of the calls that were kind of crazy and all that stuff. So I was settling in and kind of coming into my own, and just kind of feeling very, very confident. I thought I had seen everything, and I'm not trying to say that what I saw this particular day was strange and chaotic or anything like that. It was just mind-blowing to me, and where I still can't figure out how did that happen. So this particular night, I'm driving around and obviously we have our other coworkers out in the streets and stuff. So everybody's kind of doing their patrolling their section of the city and all that stuff. I mean, if anybody wants to become a cop, I will 100% back that up and tell them everything they need to know about how to be a police officer. I mean, a well-rounded police officer, because the nights where it's not crazy and you're able to drive around and look and make sure that you're driving by the businesses and there's nothing to miss, and then you keep going and then you drive around the neighborhood and then everything's quiet and there's no suspicious cars lingering about and all that stuff, and everybody's safe. I know it sounds corny. It really is what police officers take dear, is protecting their area of the city that they've been assigned to protect and patrol. They take it very seriously. They take it very personally, and they mean what they say when they say, hey, they just take it to heart. So this particular night, I'm just kind of just driving around, chilling and all that stuff, and then we get a call of a family dispute at this apartment complex that we would go to every once in a while and all that stuff. I didn't really like going there because it was such a big apartment complex, and then so you had to figure out which door to go to. Like, say if it was really, really something crazy like a fight, whatever, and someone's in there, someone's in the danger of getting injured. These type of apartments are hard because you got to figure out which is the best door to get in. The only real way that you can get in is they have lock boxes with keys. Most of them don't have codes, and if they do have codes, you wouldn't have the code offhand in your head. So you'd have to figure out where the lockbox is. Just like picture you're going to view a home, and then the real estate agent goes and they get the lockbox, and then they have to put in the combination on the lock or whatever. Then they get the key, then they whatever, and you gotta do all that stuff. Once you're done, you gotta put it back. It's just, and sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes the key's not in there and stuff, and it's a nerve-wracking process to try to figure out, because there's many apartment complex in the city anyway. So that was one that was just, once the call came out, I'm just like, oh man, it's just, okay, family dispute. The son, 16-ish or whatever, is in a dispute with his mom, and then the dispatcher says, we can hear the loud yelling. We can hear the juvenile yelling in the background. Mom's telling us that he's upset with her because of something. It is maybe a game, something about a game or whatever. Mom's being a parent trying to, discipline her kid who disobeyed her order on something. I don't know. I can't remember exactly what he did, but it was one of those incorrigible child calls. And so basically the kid just didn't want to listen to their parent, and then they're yelling back at them. And then the parent, if they become so overwhelmed with everything, they call us. In this particular case, it was a single mom, and not to say that she couldn't take care of herself, but it's just kind of like, you can kind of tell that it was one of those things. And like I said, I had so much experience dealing with all that stuff before. You could just already kind of assume that this is a kid who's trying to grow up into his own little man, wanted more freedom and all that stuff, and mom's getting nervous because he's kind of like messing up at school or smoking weed or doing something like that that's making her nervous that her son's going down the wrong path. And then, so that's what this was about. So she needed a little bit more help because he was a little bit more animated than normal. So I go to the call, I get there first, and as I pull up, I see this bigger black kid, long legs, what I remember, and kind of like he had a little bit of size to him. And I just see a kid coming running out the one of the doors of the apartment complex, and then he just darts down one of the roads. It's Hayes Street, in our city. So he darts down, which would be southbound Hayes Street. So I see him, and it just, okay, it kind of stood out and kind of fit. Okay, I already heard that the son was a black male, and this dude was all upset and kind of like, you could tell he was just angry anyway as he ran out there. So I asked dispatch, can you ask the mom if the son is still in the house or in the apartment? And then they did, and they said, negative. It sounds like he left out the house or out of the apartment, and he's wearing a whatever black jacket or whatever now. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that's just him. So I tell them that, oh, I think I have the son here. I'm going to follow him, and I'm going to stop the son. If the next unit can go make contact with mom, and then I'll take a unit with me. So obviously, I mean, I don't know what this kid is about or anything like that. So I don't know how he's going to be. So I keep my eyes on him and then monitor him a little bit. And then as I'm watching him, you can just tell he doesn't know I'm there. He doesn't know I'm following him. But you can just tell that this was a very distraught kid. You can just tell that he wasn't trying to be angry or whatever against his mom. He started crying. He's like pouting to himself, as now he's not running so much anymore. He's like stomping his feet. He's like, oh, mom, I just, and he's talking to himself and everything. I'm not laughing at that. That was, yeah. But anyway, he's talking to himself, and he's in the process of grieving and kind of calming down at the same time. It was smart in my eyes for him to leave, because if he had lost his cool and put his hands on his mom, then that's a whole nother situation. When we get there, we have to respond and react to that. So offhand, I'm thinking, okay, cool. This is the right guy. He's at least out of the house. We can watch him, and I think we'll be able to help him out. So when my cover officer gets there, I stop him, and I kind of talk to him. I'm the primary, so I'm kind of running the show. I said, hey man, how are you? Are you such and such? And he's like, yeah. I'm just like, what's going on? Mom says I was smoking weed, or she thought I was smoking weed, and I wasn't. I swear I wasn't. And but she throws it in my face, and she won't let me hang out with my friends, and I just like, and he starts crying again. So I let him get his emotions out and all that stuff. I'm really soft talking and everything. He wasn't aggressive at all. He wasn't hated the fact that the cop was. He was very gracious in that type of sense. So, and that was obviously welcomed. So I let him get all of his emotions out, and and then I kind of talked to him like, okay, hey, how about this? I was your age once too. There was a situation where my mom, I got into it with my mom once, the same age. And I'm laughing because I'm picturing what my mom ended up doing. We fought about something, and I tell them this story. That's how you can kind of relate to these kids and stuff, is when you tell them a story that what happened to you. And I told them, well, in this particular case, me and my mom were going back and forth with each other, and I was at that same age. I mean, I even got a tattoo around that same age when she didn't want me to, and I said I did it anyway, and she wasn't happy about that. And maybe at the time I did it to kind of strike back at her, because I wanted my own abilities. I was trying to grow up, and she was getting worried or whatever. So I know what you're talking about. And then my mom, she was so mad of dealing with me that day that she left the house and she jumped in my car. The only problem is that she forgot that she didn't know how to drive a stick. So she barely made it out of the driveway and just half a block down the road until the car stalled, because she didn't know how to drive a stick. So I'm out there, but still at the house. I look, and 3-4 minutes goes by, and I pop my head outside, and I look, and I see my car in the middle of the road. I'm just like, what's my car doing in the middle of the road? And I go out there, and as I look, I see my mom, the back of her head. She's just sitting there in the car, just sitting there. Cars are passing her by and all that stuff, and she's just hating life at that moment, because she tried to make a statement, and I was the one who came to help her out. So, but at the same time, that's how we made up. So when I told this youngster that story, it kind of made him a little bit kind of at ease. So I'm like, how about this? Jump in my car. We'll go back to your house. My partner is already there. We'll talk things over. We'll have a mediation session. Give you a chance to talk. If there's some stuff you want to get out to your mom, we'll do it that way. I'm sure your mom wants to kind of voice some of her things and that's going on with her and her expectations, and we'll try to help resolve this. Is that okay? He's like, yes, sir. Thank you. So he gets to the car. I take him back. We go up to his apartment. It's how many ever floors up and everything. We go in. As soon as we walk in, mom's snapping at him again. I told you. And then and then my partner had to calm her down because at one minute she was calm, but then she sees the sun and now she's raised up again. So this kid really did something that pushed mom's buttons. But in the grand scheme of things, it was innocent in the sense of it was just a normal part of growing up. It's not like he went out and he stole something or I can't remember exactly what he did, but it was just typical growing up stuff, growing pains type things. But mom wasn't having it. She was like wanting to go at him again, get in his face. And so my partner had to calm her down. And then so that initial plan didn't work at that moment, but we're going to come back to that. We're going to try to get them back together, get everybody calm again. So I said, okay, hey, where's your room? And then so we go into his room. And I said, okay, me and you finish talking. We'll let mom calm down over here. Let's let her get her out of her system. While me and you, we chill when we talk. We finish talking in your room, and then it all makes sense. So we'll get this all settled. And he's like, okay. So he shows me his room, just a typical room. It wasn't anything. It wasn't like the kid was underprivileged. Mom had everything in the room for him. It's not like it was like just a mattress on the floor. They weren't like, poverty stricken or by any means. So again, due to my experience, I just knew that this was just what it was. It's, mom and son just not getting along at the moment. So as I'm talking to him and I are really starting to kind of like, I get him calmed down and all that stuff. And then he's kind of getting more comfortable and all that stuff. And then I'm looking around his room and I see a picture. Now, picture a room that has just typical stuff, not many things like poster-wise on the walls, but just like the typical clothes here and there and stuff. This is organized kind of well, just the typical things that you'd see in a 16, 17-year-old kid who's in high school. But what caught my eye was this picture on his wall, like right over there by the bed. And it's a guy in a silver and black uniform. It's a NFL player, which I already knew because I recognized the uniform. Obviously, it was a guy in the Raider uniform, like one of this headshot or like an action photo that like a 10x8 or whatever that you would sign, And it was like one of those photos. And I'm looking at it, and I already immediately knew it was a Raider guy, one of a former Raider. Or a current Raider or whatever, but I could just see he was in a Raider uniform, obviously because of the logo, all that stuff. And so as I'm talking to him, I kind of get up. I'm on one side of the room. I kind of get up and I kind of mosey on over to the other side. I'm like, and I look at this thing and I look even closer. I'm like, holy shit, that's me. I swear to God, guys, that was a picture of me. It was my action photo up there in my uniform. Just kind of like, either about ready to run a route or about ready to catch a ball or whatever. And I'm just like, that's me. I said that to myself. This is odd. I look around and I look at him and he's not registering anything. He's still kind of like doing his own thing. I think he might have picked up some game or whatever. And he was kind of playing that in the same time, kind of talking to me here and there. But he's not catching on to me in this very highly confused look on my face as I'm looking up and I'm going back and forth looking at him. Then I'm looking at this photo and he's nothing about his demeanor changed. And I'm looking at him like, this is me? Does he know this? I'm like, but is that me? Am I getting pranked? And I had to be careful at that time because my fellow coworkers were famous for playing jokes on people, and especially me. I remember one time when Hayward Police's jail was being repaired or something like that. So they had to use our jail and for this particular time frame while it was being renovated or whatever. So like every day there was at least one or two Hayward jailers who alternated and worked along with our jailers to, book their suspects or whatever, and then they would work together with our jailers. And so they worked as a team for that temporary type of arrangement. So that particular day, I brought somebody in, and there was this male jailer from Hayward who just came up to me. He's like, "You're K.Shedd, right?" And I'm just like, "Yeah, I'm K.Shedd." He's like, "Oh my God, I heard so much about you. Can I have your autograph?" And he's like, I'm just like, "Oh, yeah, okay." And I go and I try to get a piece of paper and he's like, "Oh, wait, here, just put it to such and such and such and stuff." And I'm just like, "Okay, how do I spell the name?" And then I look and I turn around, I see people snickering. And they had set me up. He's like, dude, I'm sorry. They put me up to this. I don't know who you are at all. I'm not even a Raider fan. I'm like, oh, I was so, like, they got me. They punked me stuff. So I'm looking at this picture again, and I'm trying to figure out, am I getting punked right now? Is there a camera? There's somebody in the closet, and they're just loving this moment. But I kept looking at this kid, and everything about it looked sincere. So I'm just like, what do I do here? So I called my partner in, like, hey, partner, come on in here. It was Rich Kwan, one of my favorite San Leandro police officers. I love working with him, this guy. So I asked Rich to come in here, and he's not one of those game players. He's grown. He doesn't play those games and all that stuff. He's a straight shooter. He likes to have fun, but those type of stuff he doesn't to play something like that. And he wasn't really a big sports fan anyway. So I call him in here. I'm just like, dude, take a look at that picture. And he gets up close. He's like, dude, is that you? I'm like, yeah, that's me. That's my number. That's me. That's me. And he's like, whoa, dude, does he know that? Now all of a sudden, Kwani's all like excited. He's like, does he know that? I'm just like, I don't think so. I don't know. And he's like, does he know that that's you? I'm like, I don't know. I just want to get it confirmed. So that is me, right? And he's like, yeah, that's you. I'm just like, wow. So finally, Kwani's like, dude, says to the kid, do you know this is this guy on your wall? Where'd you get this photo? He's like, I don't know. I think I got it from some function or whatever. He didn't even remember where he got the picture from. And there was no other pictures on that wall. No other sports figures, no other real pictures anyway. There was no other pictures of Raiders, anything. No other Raider memorabilia in the room, nothing. The only thing that represented the Raiders was that picture on the wall, and it was of me. And he couldn't even remember where he got it from, but it's there on his wall as plain as day. And I didn't even know what to do. And it was a bizarre moment, almost too bizarre. But it was one of those things where this is once in a lifetime type thing, you know? So I said, let me use this. And I said, dude, it's so cool you have my picture on your wall. And he's like, I can't believe that's you. I mean, when did you play? And I told him my story and all that stuff. He said, Mom, come here. And she came in. She's like, this is him. And then she looked, that's you? And I had some muscles back then, but yeah, that's me. And so when then she started like taking her demeanor down, and she started like smiling and laughing, and then she hugged me, and then she's like, I can't believe that's you. The Raiders are this and that and everything. And one of those things that it was just a crazy, gracious, fun moment. And then everybody in the room was just happy. Everybody was smiling and everything. And I was just like, okay, well, we stood in there another 5 more minutes while everybody was okay. We were able to see that the mom's happy, and she's hugging her son's hugging his mom. We said, okay, now in the future, whatever your mom tells you to do, you need to do it. Okay, yes, sir. No problem. Yeah, school's going rough and all that stuff, but Mom, I'm going to get my grades back up. Everything's going to be fine. I'm going to start listening to you. And they hugged, and it was a very, very great moment. I'm just like, look at Kwani, okay, man, let's get the heck out of here. This is like too bizarre. So we left. And the whole way down, as we walked down the stairs, he looked at me, I looked at him, and I'm just like mine was blown. I'm like, I can't even believe that. It was crazy. And he's like, dude, that was so cool. And it was really, I kept it inside. I tried to be cool, but yeah, it was a very, very special moment. So what ended up happening was that, I go on about my day, and then there's other calls and stuff that we had to go to and everything. So we had to resume our day on the streets. Like the next day, I see that same youngster, and he comes up and he's like, Officer Shedd, look, I just wanted to let you know, look at this assignment that I just did. And it was like a book report or something like that. And I got a really good job, I did a really good job on it. The teacher was really happy and all that stuff. And he had all these fantastic things from his homework and class assignments that he wanted to share with me and show how he was turning things around and how excited he was. And he was just a completely different kid. This big old awesome smile and just full of life, and just like he was looking forward to either graduating and all that stuff, and and then he's found me again like another day or two later, and he was just always reporting back to me when he could how well things are going, how him and his mom were doing, and how inspired he was to kind of turn things around. He stopped hanging out with whatever bad group of influence of guys or friends that he was hanging out with, and maybe marijuana might have been played a factor in that and stuff like that. So it just seemed like he had gotten a hold over everything and turned everything around, and it just made everything blossom in such a more positive way at the house. Him and mom getting along, and it was just like a fantastic moment. Like I said, she was a single mom, and they really only had each other. So any type of like disputes between those two would be detrimental to two people. I mean, it could cause mom to have a mental breakdown, and then she's out of the game. It could cause the child to go and do something to harm himself, and it was just kind of like it's one of those kind of like hairy situations where you just pray for something that's going to make that situation work, and lo and behold, I would have lost that bet if I would have thought that I was going to be the one who helped fix that situation in that type of way with a photo of me as me in my playing days was going to be the turning point. But that's one of my favorite days and favorite calls and stuff, because I mean, with this kid, how I first saw him, there's a time when I went to suicides, to where sons were getting in arguments with his or her parents, and then they would run away, and then something bad would happen, and then or in this particular case, the son got in an argument with his mom, and he went and he hung himself. And maybe he wasn't trying to actually carry through on it. Maybe he was just trying to do something like put a rope around the garage door, and then hoping the mom and the dad were going to come around the corner and see that, and they were going to get scared or whatever. But I don't know. But it literally went from those two arguing about him not having a job and doing whatever and playing games too much, to him saying, well, forget this. And then he left. And then 5 minutes later, we get a call of a suicide. And so it just went down just like that. And it's just, when it happens, there's no turning back. So, as a police officer, you really start becoming invested in these type of calls and stuff like that, especially when we're talking about youngsters, who are so impressionable, and you would just hate to see them do something to harm themselves. So that's a moment that's very dear to me. And all the current Raiders and all the former Raiders and all the, I'll say the other professional football players, they have to know and understand and accept the fact that you guys are role models, and you would not guess all the different people or the different type of impact you have on society. And it doesn't come into fruition until you go back out and you see what the Raiders are doing for this city of Las Vegas and in the state of Nevada, the surrounding area. You could just see things blowing up and blossoming, and people are really embracing that team. And everybody who's a part of that organization should be very proud of the fact of wearing that shield and wearing those colors and being associated to that organization. Comes a lot of responsibility, and what you should be doing is taking that to heart. And you know what? The people around you will be very appreciative of that, because not everybody's going to be able to have that opportunity to play in the NFL. Less than 1% of all college players make it to the NFL. It's a beautiful thing. And I'm proud of the fact that I'm in this position. I'm a Raider ambassador now, and every chance I get to be able to touch somebody in that type of way and give them a little bit of positivity or encouragement that, hey, I'll take care of you, man. I'll take care of you. I'll hook you up with some Raider tickets now. But here's what I'm going to need from you. I'm going to need you to go to school and take care of your grades and be respectful, and work your butt off, okay? And then once I see all that stuff, K.Shedd is going to take care of you. It's a beautiful role to play. And guess what? I'm gonna have fun with it and stuff. So if you guys have anybody out there who kind of believes in the same thing and has the same type of mentality where, hey, let's put our heads together to try to see how we can make an impact for our youth. You know what? I'm all about visiting schools, going out and having phone conversations with some of the kids, answering questions and all that stuff. kshedduncuffed at Gmail is how you can reach me. Don't hesitate to reach out because I know you guys are showing me the type of support that I'm looking for and that's making my podcast blow up and rise. And that's how we do it, man. We take care of each other. And that's the way how I was taught from day one as an Oakland Raider. And it's carried it over as now as a Las Vegas Raider ambassador. And guess what, Raider Nation? K.Shedd Uncuffed episode 21 is wrapping. K.Shedd out.